Hello everyone, Wick Smith here. I'd like to go through a little bit of what's going on in the Marblehead class, what happened this year, and do a little bit of review of where we were as far as rigs were concerned and where we may be going in the future. I'd like to start with just a general, real quick synopsis of where the class has been in the past. Some of you may know this already. Some of you, this might be new information and kind of interesting. So the Detroit Model Yacht Club was formed with the Marblehead class in 1978. And we sailed Marbleheads until 1996. This is a sort of a representation of the rigs that we used during that time. They were basically, an A, B, and a C. The A rig was very tall, 81 inches on the luff, very tall, very narrow, and from a sailmaker standpoint, very difficult to make at the time because the cord lengths were so short. Any mistake, any amount of mistake in the broad seaming was really evident in the sail, so they were difficult to make. So we had fun. We had a good time in those years. Did a lot of development. I did a lot of traveling, San Diego, California, Chicago, down south, Toronto, places like that for national events. Had a good time. In 1995, we held the Nationals at Belle Isle. I came in second. I'm trying to remember who came in first. I think it was somebody from California came in with a swing rig, A rig. People know what that is, and was pretty unbeatable. At that time, I went to the class, the DMYC, and asked them if they wanted to upgrade all their Marbleheads to a swing A rig. It was pretty unanimous that nobody was interested in that. At the time, I was the only one doing any traveling. So the class was sort of at a turning point. We all got together and we all decided at that time that we were going to go to a more one design class. And in 1997, we dropped the A rig from the class. The B and C rigs were made by me. They were out of Tri-Spy material. They were all off the same mold, so all the sail shapes were all the same. They were relatively easy to make. And really, from that point till 2015, again, we had a pretty good run. Unfortunately, the Tri-Spy material had become no longer available. The company went out of business. The aluminum masts that we used were in very short supply, and people were coming into the class, and the club had no way of getting rigs to them. So at that point, I went to the class and I said, well, if we're going to change the rig, why don't we change it to a more modern looking rig with a square top main, and maybe we can, upgrade the boat a little bit since we're no longer sailing real Marbleheads anyways. We can maybe make the boat a little more modern looking and attract some younger sailors. So in 2016, the class changed to what a lot of people are used to looking at, the square top A rig, and continued with the 1998 C rig. We don't use the C rig very often, so there was no point in really upgrading it. Most of the boats had one. Those that didn't didn't lose out too much. We didn't sail with them very often. It doesn't really blow that hard very often here. Once a year or so, we had to use them. And at that time, those people were just going to suffer with the A rig or not be able to sail. I did manage, I think, to make a couple of C rigs for people because I still had some old material. But for the most part, that was those were the rigs that we used. It was not the original concept. I wanted to replace all the C rigs with a new B and C based off of carbon tubes that would look similar to the A rig. It took a long time because it doesn't blow here very often. I had a hard time developing those rigs because I needed breeze to be able to test them. And it wasn't until 2020 that I actually got a weather report that the Brass Monkey Regatta in October was going to have really significant wind. So I built about 12 B rigs, and we went out and tested them. Discovered that they were really shy in sail area, and they were difficult to. It was difficult to keep up with the old C rig. That year, the C rig did win, and I was forced to rethink exactly why I wanted or had that rig so small. And you can see that it's shy about 70 square inches of sail. Here, 820 versus 890. It's significantly shorter with a center of area at 410 versus 470 here. It was too big of a step down, basically. So this goes along with the development or the start of the development of the 10 Raider in the class also. So in 2021, these were the rigs that we sailed in 2021. There were still some C rigs, there were still some B rigs, and we adopted at that time, and I went out and built, I don't know, 12 or so of the 10 Raider D rigs, and I call it the 2022 because it was late 2021, and this was really what I wanted to start sailing this size rig in 2022, which is a subset of the 10 Raider A rig. These D rigs, 10 Raider D rigs, sail very well. They've got a lot of things going for them. They've got a lot of latest technology put into them as far as broad seaming, using new molds, new concepts to reduce and fix some of the behavioral issues of the other rigs. Again, in 2021, Eric Reno won with the C rig. He beat out Ian Poliat and Ron Sherry, who were both sailing D rigs. In all fairness to them, they don't sail these boats much. The D rig was very fast, though, I have to admit. And Ian was tied with Eric going into the last race, and Eric beat him in the last race by a couple of boats, put a couple of boats between them, ended up winning the regatta. And but it shows that the C rig really is still competitive to this day, even after all these years, which is really kind of amazing. I think it's just wonderful. So this is what we sailed. All these different rigs were out there that day. So we're really not sailing a one design rig concept anymore. We are sailing more of a 10R type concept where you have an A rig, and then your subsequent rigs are a subset. In other words, all the dimensions are slightly smaller than your A rig. This is the basis of the 10 Raider class. Moving on here, I want to do a little bit of discussion about the 10 Raider even further. In 2020, I designed a set of sails for the 10 Raider, and I've got to kind of recenter things here so you can see everything. It was an A rig, typical of what you would see. I only built one of these. I built several of the A2s for people. And then the concept was using the Marblehead as a C rig and then the other Marblehead as a D rig. And that would give you something to step down to as the breeze increased. There is no B rig in this picture because I never built any. And that's just kind of the way things went. I intended to have some sort of a B rig in here. The A rig and the A2, the jib is identical. The A2 just had the little triangle at the head missing to try and reduce some of the heeling moment, yet still give you good sail area. These rigs, though, suffered from a lot of issues. The main issue was the mast stiffness. These rigs are low standard modulus, pultruded round sections. They're fairly soft. They are not what 10 raters around the world sail. Around the world, they sail more of a high-tech, a high modulus carbon tube. High modulus carbon tubes are very expensive. They're only available in Europe. I know Midwest does import them. They're probably $160 for a rig, where standard modulus is about 35 or 40. So there is quite a bit of, and when you're talking about having to have 5 rigs, 10 boats, 5 rigs apiece, that's 50 masts. That's a significant club overall investment in just mast sections. So I've been trying to figure out how to use these low modulus or standard modulus carbon pultruded tubes and keep the cost out. The other issue with these sails is they had a fairly large flat top, which has turned into an issue of controllability and being able to get on a main sheet tension to control that large flat top. It also suffered, and this was a new concept for me that was brought up to me by Mike Boston, was the oversized roach on the A2, which I didn't really recognize what was going on, was something that he calls mid-leach sag. I can see it now. I couldn't see it back then. I knew there was something wrong. There was something about the A2 that it behaved. It didn't really want to set properly. And so a lot of this, a lot of this knowledge, a lot of these issues have led to a further development in the 10 rater. And that is the next set of sails that I designed in 2021. And these are what people are sailing with right now. Most of the boats have the A through D. I do have some E's made. They haven't been sailed with yet. It's got to be blowing pretty darn hard before you put something that small on. But this resolved several issues. Number one, the flat top, the square top is 28% versus 35 or 38% of the foot length. A lot of the leach has been flattened out and taken away to remove the mid-leach sag. The bigger one, though, was making the flat top on the top of the jib here, which is a takeaway from the America's Cup catamarans, and then also having a head stay that goes to the top for a masthead rig, which gives us tremendous head stay control without the need for a stiff mast. So you're not relying on the mast to withstand that backstay load and transfer it into the head stay without overbending. These are working very well. I've sailed the A rig, I've sailed the D, I've sailed the B quite a bit. The amount of head stay that we are able to get is pretty impressive for only having a standard modulus carbon mast. So this moves us forward into what we want to do for the future, and as of right now, I would like to propose that we do a combination for now of two subsets of the 10-rater sale plan. You can either sail the current Club A rig, which would be what you're used to seeing and what you probably already have. One of these, you have this rig right here, which would be a 10-rater C rig. It's a little oversized for a C rig, and you'll see that in a minute here. I'll do a little better comparison. And you probably have one of these D rigs that you can use. The other one would be here, which would be what we just saw, the 2021 10-rater. Again, using a subset of this, using the B, C, and D. I do want to point out, and this is the one element that everybody's going to focus in on, is the fact that this B rig is 1,270 square inches and this C rig is 1,190. Think about it this way: the difference is a sheet of paper 8 inches by 10 inches. That this C rig is smaller than the 2021 B rig. But you can also look at it this way, that when this B rig, the 2021 B rig, gets too big and you have to come down to a C rig, this C rig is only 1060, where this rig over here is 1190. So there's going to be a crossover point where the 1190 is actually going to be a better sale for you than either the 1270 or the 1060 B and C rigs from the 2021 sale plan. This is just information for you. The other thing that we can comment about here is that the vast majority, like 90% of the active Marblehead sailors, also have a 10-rater and have in their possession these rigs. The people that would want to sail these rigs are a couple of boats. Again, we can always take care of that issue. We can build more sails, we can build more rigs if people want to convert over. But the push here to go to the 10-rater subset for the majority of the people is now they only have to purchase and maintain one set of rigs for both classes. They can basically cut down. A lot of them have taken the Club A rig, Marblehead A rig, which is now the C here, and I've actually taken about 6 or 8 of these and cut them down into these C rigs here. So you don't have to buy it. So we didn't have to buy new sails. We can just take existing ones and cut them down. So we're going to have more discussion about this. I just wanted to put this out there in a short video so that you could actually see what I see on the computer and have a little bit of the history of how we got here, so that when we go to have discussions, people aren't asking me, well, what is an A rig? What is a B rig? What's a C rig? What's a D rig? What are all these rigs? What are all the designations and stuff? It's all laid out here for you. Watch it, digest it, understand it. If you've got a question, call me and ask. But all the information is here for you to give you the history of how we got to these letter designations. And as far as I'm concerned, in the 10-rater world, the old designations really don't mean anything. It's these designations here that mean everything. As I say, the only thing that's missing out of the 2020 sale plan is the B rig. I just frankly never got around to building one, and I don't think I ever will. If somebody wants to convert to a larger sale plan, I'd have them come over here to the 2021 sale plan and just purchase it out of that group. All right, that's it for me. If you have any questions, give me a call.